Hello everyone, Mr. Minnick is my name. Math is my game. I need to change that. One of these days I will. So last night my Algebra II classes were asked to try these exercises. I believe number 4 was one of the ones that I had asked them to try. And the first thing that they should have noticed, and you should notice about number 4, is right off the bat, before you do any work at all, you should be able to identify one of the zeros by factoring out a GCF. So what do we factor out? Good. We factor out an x, so one of our answers is 0. You get that for free, I hope. Because the constant term is 0. And 0 really doesn't have any factors other than 0. And so that would make our list of possible rational roots have one thing in it. 0. So 0 is a 0. So we factor out the x, and that leaves x cubed minus 2x squared plus x minus 2. Now, at that point, you might have thought, okay, so now I'm looking at this, and I want to list my possible rational roots. Or you could recognize that that cubic expression is factorable by what technique? By grouping. If you can't do that, well, then we'll go ahead and proceed by trying the possible rational roots. So I'll try 1. So we'll try synthetic division and see what happens. There's a 1, and a 1, and a negative 1, and a negative 1, and a 0, and a 0, and that didn't work. Oh, it's a lower bound. It's positive, negative. 0 can count as positive or negative. I didn't mention that. But yeah, 1's a lower bound. So none of the zeros are smaller than 1. So I guess that means we can go right to the 2. Here we go. 1, negative 2, 1, negative 2. So there's 1, 2, 0, 0, 1, 2, and 0. So 2 is our second of how many zeros? 4. Okay. So we took a cubic. We broke a cubic down. So in factored form, we could write this whole thing as x times x what 2? Minus 2, good, awesome. And then what's left is x squared plus no x plus 1. Now, I really hope that now at least a third of you recognize how to solve that kind of quickly. Subtract 1 from both sides, take the square root. So when we do that, x squared plus 1 is 0, x squared is negative 1. In Algebra 1, you would say there's no solution. Take the square root, and then Mrs. Accordino, yeah, we got a question. Okay, we got to figure it out. So an I pops out, and we get I. And remember, imaginary roots show up in pairs, and the other one is negative I. Awesome, good. So that's what you should have had for number 4. Are there any questions, comments, concerns, short debates about it? Would anyone love to see that cubic factored by grouping? Okay. I like the enthusiasm. So we're going to look at that cubic factored by grouping. So x, I'm going to have to put that on a new page. Welcome to the new page, oh man. X cubed minus 2x squared. What's next? Is it plus? X minus 2? Okay. Factoring by grouping. I know I've written this on the board 17 times this year, and I'll probably write it three more anyway. Factoring by grouping is of this form. If you don't have it in your notes, it's worth writing. RA plus RB plus what I'm not going to say because I might be going on to the east side of Youngstown today. So we look at the first two terms. We look at the first two terms, and we factor out the first two terms as GCF. X squared. Okay. In the case of the RA and the RB, it's R, and that leaves behind A plus B. In our case here, it's going to leave behind what? X minus 2. Okay. So in the general form, then we look at the next two terms and we factor out their GCF, which is S, right? And in our case, it's kind of tough to tell. It doesn't look like we factored out anything. It would be 1 because 1 is kind of like the identity. It is the multiplicative identity. So we actually do factor out a plus 1 here. So what's interesting is we get a plus b, which is the same thing as we had over here. That's kind of interesting that shows up twice, but that's how it rolls. That's how it works. So up here, then, we get the same thing. We get that x minus 2. So the last step of factoring by grouping is that this and this combine forces. It's kind of like the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. You know, when they all team up and they become one super Megazord. Thank you. I just watched the Suicide Squad last night. Totally not what I was expecting. Okay. So anyways, the R and the S become 1. So in our case, the x squared plus 1 become 1 binomial. Now this next part, this is the one that confuses people. At a plus b that shows up twice, you only need it once. Some people want to make it squared. You don't. It's just times a plus b. So here, this is just times x minus 2. Okay. Which is the same thing we got the other way. So there's more than one way to the Eastwood Mall. Okay. All right, so that was number 4. So we're looking at that again. Okay. So that technique is actually going to show up at least once more as we go through these exercises. For the record, when we have our Chapter 5 test, we have a Chapter 5 test coming down the line. Probably next week sometime. You know how we teachers do. Probably Friday. Great. Something else to study for. Anyway, the Chapter 5 test, there will be a calculator component to it. So just to make sure everybody knows how to find the roots on a calculator, if you want to take a minute and grab them, go ahead. They should be all charged up. So we're grabbing calculators. We're going to look at this if my calculator loads. I know my computer's been operating slowly this day and the other day ago too. What do we got? Oh, it's going to pop up the next class period. I was thinking it might pop up in 2018. I'm kind of excited about 18 if I'm being honest. The Winter Olympics. I love the Olympics. Love the Olympics. I think the Olympics are so cool. Speaking of cool, does anybody know who Anton Apollo Ono is? He brought back the soul patch. He brought back the soul patch. I'm not going to grow a soul patch, no. Never have, never will. Never have, never will. So here we go, poly roots. You can just type that right in, poly roots. Thank you. It would be C poly roots because this one happens to have complex, and to play it safe, it is best to put that C before it. That way, if there are complex roots or imaginary roots, it will find them. So then what do we need? A left parenthesis and then the expression. Not an equal sign, but the expression. So we had what? X to the 4th minus 2x to the 3rd plus x squared minus 2x. And if we just press enter, the calculator says what Red Fox might say. That's not what Red Fox says. Red Fox says, "You big dummy." I wouldn't say that, but Red Fox says that. The calculator doesn't work. I see so many people get mad at the calculator, and they put it back, and I see all these calculators with all these error messages, and it doesn't do anything that they want it to do. Well, because we got to put a comma x in there, right? So comma x, and there we go. Questions about that one? All right. Well, the next one that we were asked to try was numero ocho. And I think we'll put that on a brand new page. Look at the directions. It said without a calculator, without using a calculator. Well, there's 4 terms. X cubed minus 3x squared plus x minus 3. I wonder, could we use that technique we just saw? Factor by grouping? Okay, so what factors out of the first 2? X squared, which leaves what? Of x minus 3. And hey, in factoring by grouping, that binomial that factors out of the first one should factor out of the second one too, right? Okay. So what do we have to factor out of the last 2 terms then to make that happen? Oh, what kind of one? Oh, okay. So we have x squared plus 1 times x minus 3, and that's factored form. And this is almost identical to the last one with just 1 fewer 0. And one of the factors is a little different. So what do we get? 3 I and negative I. There it is. Anybody have that one? Right on. Any questions, comments, concerns, short debates about it? So we got it. Somebody calling somebody out. We got somebody saying that somebody used Mathway. Speaking of Mathway, I was informed. I probably shouldn't tell you about this, but I was informed that there's something better than Mathway. Wolfram Alpha's good, but this one is the new one that one of my colleagues shared with me. It's called SciMath. Have you heard of it? Okay, is it SciMath.com? SciMath, oh, here we go, SciMath calculator. What, is that what it is? They don't even spell it right? CY? SciMath? Oh, man. Oh, man. See, that's why teachers didn't know about it, because teachers know how to spell. Most of them. X cubed, what was it, minus 3x squared plus x minus 3 equals 0. All right, SciMath, let's see what you got. Oh, what? They even show you the steps. I never would have found it if I didn't know that it was CY math. I thought it was, well, anyway. You could thank Dr. Jones for that. A shout out to the great Dr. Jones. All right. Number 12 is the next one we got to look at. Of course, remember that if you use SciMath or Wolfram Alpha or Mathway to get answers, you're really not learning anything and you're not developing your skills of math. You're developing your skills of how to get answers, which isn't a horrible thing, but in this class it's not going to help you on your chapter test so much. Okay. Oh my goodness. I feel like Annie from Annie. Anybody know Annie from Annie? Do you see how every coefficient's positive? Let's just think about this for a minute. Let's just use our brains. That's something that people don't do nowadays. We don't have enough time to. Think about it. Our world is 7 seconds. Pop culture is no longer pop culture. You know, back in the day, they used to say, voila, and that was popular for 7 years, and people still know it. And now there's something that happened 3 days ago that people don't even know because we live in such a 7-second world nowadays. Anyway, so let's use our brain for a minute. Let's just think about, what was what? The thing from 3 days ago that people don't even know about? I don't even remember. I don't even remember. I was probably speaking rhetorically. Yeah, 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 yeah. So, so if we think about this, we got a 1, 4, 7, 16, and 12. Shame on me, I didn't list the possible rational roots. But I'm going to use my brain. I know I'm going to be adding and multiplying. If I add and multiply with all positives, I'm going to get all positives. Does that make sense? Did anybody stop and think about that? If you add and multiply all positives, you're going to get all positives. Well, we're trying to get 0, right? So watch my possible rational roots list. I'm going to make it modified. I'm going to put an asterisk by it because since they're all positive, if I put anything positive in there, guess what? It's going to be positive and it's not going to be 0. So -1, -2, -3, -4, -6, and -12. I'm going to be bold. I'm going to have some fortitude. -1, here we go. Oh man. Oh man. You see how much time I saved myself? Because I probably would have tried 1 first. So I just saved myself 1 synthetic division. Now, writing this into factored form is a good practice. It's not necessary, but I'm going to write it in factored form. X what 1? Plus 1, nice. And then what's the remaining thing going to be? X cubed. Plus 3x squared, plus 4x, plus 12. And all that still equals 0. Now, can anyone recognize a way that we could save ourselves? Huh? Factor by grouping again? Are you kidding me? So you mean to tell me that we could factor GCF out of this? And then we could factor that. Oh, that didn't work the way it was supposed to. Let's try that again. That didn't work the way it was supposed to. Okay. So what do we have to factor out of? Factor out of 4? A plus 4? All right, so we get x plus 3 is one of them. And x squared plus 4, okay. So that didn't take that much time. And if we know what we're doing and if we're paying vigilant attention, we should be able to write up all 4 zeros. We already knew that -1 worked. We know that -3 works. Now the next one, I got to be honest with you. And that's, I'll be honest with you right now, that's why I'm not in sales. That's why I don't work at an automobile dealership. And I'm not saying people that work there are all evil, but I'm saying I almost got a job as a service writer. Anybody know what they do? You take your car there, and they drive it around, and they tell you all the things that you should replace on it. And they sometimes tell you things that probably don't need replaced that they're going to try to upsell you, because that's what retail's all about. Anyway, I couldn't lie to people to make a living. And you have to have so many upsells, or you don't have a job. And the dealership goes out of business. So anyway. So what are the other 2 zeros? Some people think they're 4 and -4. No. Some people think they're 2 and -2. No. What are they? How on earth did you get -2i and 2i? Yeah, you have to take the root of -4. I don't understand what happened between chapter 4, section 8 and now why this all of a sudden becomes so much more different and how people don't know how to take the square root of -4. I don't get it. I know 4/8 was like 5-6 calendar weeks ago, but still, nonetheless, that's really easy. How come people just, whatever. So when you take the square root of 4, it's 2, plus or minus, and then with the negative, the I pops out. So we get -2i and 2i. Did anybody have that one? All right, good. Those of you that are getting these on your own merit without SciMath or Mathway or Wolfram Alpha, you should be in really good shape come time of the chapter test. Friday's quiz, on the other hand, well, kind of remind myself of Ronald Reagan there. He always used to say that. Well, that was Ronald Reagan's key phrase. So number 20, you might think, well, I need to make a list. No, you don't. Chapter 5, Section 2. Go back, look at your notes, look at some of the examples. We factored ones like this, didn't we? 0 equals. I know that 8's factors that add up to 6 are 4 and 2. They both got to be negative. All I got to do is figure out the front end of these. Oh. So again, I don't understand what happens between Chapter 4, Section 8 and now. But when you take x squared minus 4 equals 0, the square root of 4 isn't 4. And it's not 16 either. It's 2. So we're going to have 2. What else? -2. So then the next one, well, there is no square root of 2. So there's no solution, right? No, it's just, yeah, it's just a square root of 2. So it's going to be the square root of 2 and negative square root 2. Will that show up on the TI Inspire? No. Probably not. It would show up on a CAS. Yeah, we'll see. We'll check SciMath. So this was x to the 4th. Was it minus 6x squared plus 8, or plus 8? Thank you. Comma x. So the calculator doesn't show us the irrational roots as irrational. It just gives us decimals. Okay. SciMath, here we come. I wonder if I can copy and paste from the Inspire to SciMath. Control C. Control V. Ah. All right. The how button. And it's free so far. I don't know what plus gets you, but maybe plus comes into the test room and takes your test for you. Okay. 20. You had to do 24 too, right? So this is probably where the wheels fell off, if I'm using a metaphor. This is probably where things went south. This is probably where things went, we said, you know, I get this, or I don't get this, and I have no idea what I'm doing, or I know what I'm doing. For sake of time, I'm going to jump right to 2, because I know 2 works. So we got 1, 3, 1, negative 12, negative 20. So here's 1, 2, 5, 10, 11, 22, 10, 20, and 0. So I got x minus 2 times x cubed plus 5x squared plus 11x plus 10. I'm going to jump right to negative 2 because I know negative 2 works. 1, 5, 11, 10. Here we go. 1, negative 2, 3, negative 6, 5, negative 10, 0. So I know two of my answers. Negative 2 and 2. We know there's 4. Did anybody come up with the other two? What do you got? That is almost right. I heard 3 plus or minus IRAD 11 all over 2. I heard something. I got something different. I'm hearing 3 minus. I'm hearing the same thing. No, not quite. Yeah. What do we got? Yeah, negative 3. Negative 3. You said 3, I think. So from this point on, you're going to have to handle that quadratic. We did this in chapter 4. X equals the opposite of b. Plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So that's negative 3 plus or minus the square root of negative 11 over 2. So the other roots are negative 3 plus or minus IRAD 11 over 2. Gut check question. You did the quadratic formula to get those? You looked at somebody else's paper to get those? How'd you get it? The quadratic formula. Yeah. Yep. That's really the only way to get those from their end. Could you have used completing the square? You could have, but I personally, as good as I am with fractions, I wouldn't. Yeah. Yeah, completing the square, because the b value is 3, you'd get into some fractions in their mess. And I like completing the square, but I just wouldn't. Yeah. Yep. SciMath would do it. So 28 is the one that you were asked to not do. So 32 is the last one where you had to find all the roots, and then I think we got one more after that, right? All right. We're almost there. 32. Did anybody look at this before they put their possible roots list together? Yeah, factoring by grouping probably isn't going to work. Yeah, so maybe, well, let's see. Would 1 work? 1 doesn't work? Negative 2 works? All right, let's try that. There's 2, there's negative 4, there's negative 7, there's 14, and negative 4, and 8 and 0. Awesome. Awesome. So we got this quadratic 2x squared minus 7x minus 4. We got that, and I think that factors. I think it factors. 2x, x, 4, 1, minus, plus. So your answers should have been, in no particular order, negative 2, negative a half, and 4. Did anybody have those? Good, 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 good. Well, we're almost home here. The last one that you had to do was 44. The question says a 4th degree polynomial. In other words, p of x is going to be something x to the 4th. It says it has a 0 of 3. Okay. It says it has a 0 of 5 minus I. Wait a minute, because 5 minus I is a root, what else is a root? 5 plus I. So the question is, can 4 plus I also be a 0 of this function? No, why not? Because of the conjugate, it would have to make it a quintic, or they're lying to you. Yeah, good. That's it. It's been real. It's been fun. Have a great day. I will see you all next time. Good.